Please be seated.
អង្គខ្ញុំជំរាបប្រកាសបន្ត
The court is back in session. For this afternoon proceeding, as planned, we will proceed with defense team for Nuon Chea to put questions to witness Salot Ban. The floor is now handed over to you, counsel for Nuon Chea. Counsel Sonoron. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honors. Good afternoon, witness. I am defense counsel for Mr. Nuon Chea, and I have a number of questions, about 10 questions for you. Witness, you joined the struggle movement with the Party of Cambodia since you quit studying, especially when you lived in southwest zone and you lived with some major leaders, for example Pol Pot, who was your uncle. I want to know that when you went to live with the party, what did you know about the party statute? That is, how strict was the statute? Can you describe that? A lot of people said that it was very strict back then. It was very difficult to live. Is it true? What is your opinion about that? Witness. I met with Mr. Nuon Chea once in a while in Ratanakiri. It was in Ratanakiri. It was not in the southwest zone. It was in the northeast zone rather. I joined the revolution not because I was under the pressure of my uncle Pol Pot, or because of the pressure by Mr. Nuon Chea. It was only a secondary pressure. The primary pressure, as I understood it, was what my uncle said, that before we went to study in France, we had, for example, 10 hectares of land, but after returning from France, we no longer had the land. For example, we had less than half a hectare of land. So I thought about what he said, and when I met them, two of them in the jungle, I was told by him, my uncle, he gave the books to me. He gave the book to Pang, and Pang gave that book to me. The book was about the solidarity of the minorities under the revolutionary flag. And what we had to know, as I said, was to protect our territory, that is to protect the King Father, and to make sure that there were no French in the Khmer nation. The document was about the solidarity of the minorities. Since the past, the minorities were suppressed. That is why we were taught to have solidarity among the minorities. And if there was no solidarity, we would not be able to build ourselves. We would not be able to build our village. We would not be able to build our districts. We would not be able to build our provinces, and we will not be able to build our nation. So, in short, I can say that it was not strict. Council. Thank you, witness. You were in the party for a long time. Did you meet him frequently? Did you know him well? Did you know Mr. Nunchi well? Witness. I met him. I am sure that I met him. I met him many times. But my encounters with him were not about our work. We did not work together. Council, thank you. Just now you said that you knew Mr. Nunchia very well and you met him frequently. What can you say about his personality? Was he a violent and brutal person in his capacity as a leader, or was he a gentle and educated person? Can you tell the court on the basis of your knowledge and what you remember? Witness. Mr. Nunchia had solidarity. He had a good personality towards me, and I'm talking about his personalities towards me only. He never disappointed me. He explained to us that we had to love each other. Otherwise, we were not able to protect the revolution. That meant he educated us. He educated us for the interest of the revolution. Council. How about others besides you? Did you see or did you know whether he had a cruel personality toward others or not? That is when there was an internal conflict. Could it be possible for him to send people to prison? Did you ever hear of that? Witness: No, I did not. Counsel: Thank you.
លោកតាំងពីលោកចាត់ផ្ដើមចូលបដិវត្តន៍មករហូតមក
Since
លោកដែលឮ
you began your revolution,
អនុជន
did you ever hear of the Indo-China Federation Party?
បាទខ្ញុំបានឮ
Yes, I did.
លោកអាចបរិយាយបន្តិចខ្លីទេកុំវិញតិចតួចពីបកគមនីអនុជន
Counsel, can you briefly describe about the Communist Party of Indochina?
មានរចនាសម្ព័ន្ធគេយ៉ាងម៉េច
Try to be brief. Can you describe the
ការ
structure of the party or the work
អ្នកណាត្រួត
of the Communist Party of Indochina? Who controlled the party? Could you tell the court?
មួយ
Witness:
ខ្ញុំបានអានសៀវភៅខ្លះ
First of all,
សៀវភៅ
I read some books
សៀវភៅក្នុងអង្គការ
beside the books provided to me by the party.
ខ្ញុំអានសៀវភៅតាមទិញតាមបណ្ដាគារអី
I read books that I bought from bookstores. I heard of the Communist Party of Indochina.
ទៅឃើញថាបាក់នេះគឺមានទិសដី
From my
ដែលឈ្មោះ
consideration, from my reading rather, I knew that Ho Chi Minh was the leader of the party.
វៀតណាមនេះគឺជាបងលើបកកម្ពុជា
The Vietnamese party was the older brother of the Communist Party of Indochina and the brother of the Laos party.
លោកមិនអាចជំរាបតុលាការពីរឿង
Counsel,
រចនាសម្ព័ន្ធរបស់បកកុម្មុយនីស
can you not describe the structure of the Communist Party of Cambodia to the court?
បាទខ្ញុំមិនអាចបញ្យល់បានទេបាទ
មែនអរគុណណា
Response: No, I cannot. Counsel:
លោកដែលឮ
Thank you.
មិត្តភាពរាប់ម៉ឺនឆ្នាំរវាងបកកុម្មុយនីសកម្ពុជា
Can you talk about the relationship between the Communist Party of Cambodia and Communist Party of Indochina?
បាទខ្ញុំឮ
បើឮទៅពាក្យនេះមិន
Response: I have heard of the relationship, the long-lasting relationship. Question: can you explain that term, the long-lasting relationship? Response:
ខ្ញុំមិនអាចបញ្យល់បានទេ
I cannot explain the meaning of this term, as I said.
បងគេមកគឺបងគេមក
I said of the brotherhood of the party, and that means the brotherhood lasted for thousands of years. Counsel: I will now move on to ask you about something else.
1977
On the 15th of September 1977, when Sun Sen went on missions to Nhat Luang in the East Zone,
ថានៅពេល
did you know
បំពេញបេសកកម្មនោះមាននរណា
that when
ជំនួសលោកសុនសេន
Sun Sen went there, who came to take place of Sun Sen.
សំទោសសូមសំបន្ថែម
And I would like to add also that
សុនសេន
when
ទៅបំពេញបេសក
Sun
កម្មនៅ
Sen went on missions to the East Zone, who replaced Sun Sen
ក្រសួងការពារ
to be in charge of the Ministry of National Defense
រួមទាំងមន្ត្រី
and
ស21ផងដែរ
other security centers, including S21 as well.
បាទខ្ញុំបាទអត់ដឹងទេ
Response: No, I did not know about that.
លោកស្គាល់មន្ទីរស21
The question: Did you know about S21 office?
បាទខ្ញុំបាទអត់ស្គាល់ទេ
Response: No, I did not.
លោកបានស្គាល់
Question:
ដូចទេ
Did you know Doj
កាំងគីអៀវហៅដូច
Kangi Il alias Doj?
បាទខ្ញុំ
Response:
ស្គាល់ពេលដែល
I knew him
ចូលស្រុកខ្មែរ
when the Vietnamese came into the country.
លោកមានដឹងថាលោក
Question:
គាត់ធ្វើអី
Did you know what Doj did during that period, the 3 years period?
ខ្ញុំមិនបានសួរដូចទេ
Response: I did not ask Doj about that,
សឹកប្រាប់ខ្ញុំថានោះហើយ
but I was told
រៀនស21
that he was the
បញ្ចឹងមានន័យ
chairman of S21 office.
ច្បាស់លាស់ជាមួយនឹង
Question:
ដូចទេណា
So that means you are not sure about Doj biography?
បាទ
Response: No, I am not sure about that.
មុខតំណែងរបស់លោក
Question:
លោករបស់លោកសាក់សីជាអគ្គ
Your position was the Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs during the Democratic Cambodia period.
ដែលគណៈអចិន្ត្រៃយ៍
Did you know all
គណៈមជ្ឈិមប្រជុំ
about
ឬការងារអ្វីធំ
the meetings of the Central
ដែលគណៈអចិន្ត្រៃយ៍
Committee,
ខ្ញុំបានធ្វើ
as well as the meetings of the Standing Committee, or all the work that were done by these committees?
ឬក៏គេប្រាប់
Did you receive any documents,
ពីជំនុំរឿង
or were you told
ត្រៃក្តីគណៈមជ្ឈិមក្តី
as to what discussions were held during the meeting? President, witness, please wait. International co-prosecutor, you may proceed.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
សូមអរគុណលោក
Thank you, Mr. President. The question has already been put to the witness several times. I believe it's repetitive. Thank you.
បាទអរគុណ
President, yeah, thank you. Witness, it's not required to answer this question. This is a repetitive question. Council may begin with a new one.
ខ្ញុំមិញសួរសំណួរនេះ
Council,
ក្នុងន័យមួយដែលខ្ញុំ
I asked this question
តបភ្ជាប់
because I would like to make some connection with these questions to the questions that I asked earlier.
តែលោកលោកប្រធានអាច
This is a connected question. Can I be allowed to ask this question? President, witness should not answer this question because it is repetitive. Council may begin with a new one.
លោកសាក់សី
Council, Mr. Witness,
កាលពីថ្ងៃទី25ខែ
On the
ឆ្នាំ
25th of April 2012, you
រាយញាថា
answered to the prosecution question that
អ្នកកសែតឬជនបរទេស
when you escorted journalists or foreigners to the bases,
បាយមកហូប
people
ហូប
always complained that
តើប្រជាជន
there was a lack of
ប្រាប់លោក
food.
ប្រជាជនប្រជាពលរដ្ឋបានប្រាប់លោកសាក់សីថាមកពីហេតុអ្វី
Did
បាន
those people tell you about the reason why there was lack of food or rice?
ហូបមិនគ្រប់គ្រាន់ទេ
Or were you simply told that there was
បានជាមិនគ្រប់
lack of food?
ដែលនិយាយប្រាប់លោកទេ
Were you told about the reasons?
មានរឿង
Witness,
មានរឿងជាច្រើនកន្លែងខ្លះទៅ
there were
ខាងលើ
many occasions
ខាងលើ
in some places I was told that the superior sensed
ស្រាប់តែកណ្ណា
garments
ទឹកអាស៊ីឆេះអស់
sensed garments out or clothes, but those clothes were burned.
ខាងលើប្រាប់ថាឲ្យមានអង្គឲ្យមានរបប
The upper echelon
មួយអាទិត្យយ៉ាង
instructed that
ក៏អត់បាន
the food ratio should be
ប្រាប់ខ្ញុំថាស្រូវធ្វើ
rice or porridge once a week.
ទឹកយកទៅណា
Rather, there
ខ្លះប្រាប់
had to be dessert once a week, but it was not done.
ប្រាប់ថាគេដឹកយកទៅកើត
Some people said rice was transported
ត្រង់នេះ
to different places. Some said that rice was burned down.
ដឹងតាមប្រជាជន
So I learned all about this
ផ្សេងញាត់
from
ទៅចុះ
the people, from
ជាក់ស្ដែងខ្ញុំមើលទៅឃើញចឹងមែននេះអត់មែន
the rumors.
ជាក់ស្ដែងទៅទៀតឪពុកម្ដាយខ្ញុំ
But practically, I did not see that.
អត់បានអ្វីដែលហៅថាអង្គការពីលើ
My parents themselves
ចេះបប
did not receive what Anka
ឬបង្អែមឬអីអត់បានទេ
intended them to have. For example, rice or desserts. They did not get all these.
ក្នុងវាំងទៅជាពោះជ្រះអីចឹងទៅគាត់អត់ទេ
My father, who used to work in the royal palace,
អត់អន់ចិត្តអន់ថ្លើមអីទេ
rather my grand uncle, who used to work in the royal palace, he did not receive all these as well.
ត្រង់នឹងហើយដែលខ្ញុំ
But he was not disappointed. So all these things is what I saw with my eyes and what I heard from people saying.
ឆ្លើយមកវិញខ្ញុំ
Council.
ថាឬគេប្រាប់
I do not seem to understand what you said. Can you indicate what you mean by you saw with your eyes and you heard from what people said? What was the reason why
ការលោកជួបប្រទះ
there was lack of rice?
ឬបងប្អូនប្តីហ្នឹងមកពីហេតុអី
From what you know, what was the reason?
រឿងនេះ
Response.
ខ្ញុំដឹង
About this point,
ហៅថាវាដឹងចុងទៅឲ្យទេ
I only came to know when
យើងរៀប
it was late.
រៀបពីសភាពការបានដឹងហើយដឹងចុងទៅឲ្យ
We could understand this on the basis of the situation, if you allow me to describe the situation. I did ask
មិនជាប់នៅនឹងទេ
about the reasons why,
សួរបងប្អូន
because I was not attached to the base regularly.
ហើយថាខ្លីមកប្រាប់ខ្ញុំថា
When I asked about this, I was told
ឲ្យខ្លោចហ្នឹងវាធ្វើឲ្យអង្គការយើងខ្លោចឲ្យឆៅហើយ
that what was happening
គេប្រាប់តែប៉ុណ្្នឹងឲ្យខ្ញុំបាន
was to overcook Anka.
ប៉ុន្តែលោកយល់ថាជាក់ស្ដែងយ៉ាងម៉េចទេតែគេថាដុតឲ្យខ្លោច
Council. What do you mean by to overcook Anka?
ឥឡូវខ្ញុំមកពិភាក្សាឥឡូវនេះ
Response. I am only doing analysis now.
ខ្ញុំបានជំរាបយ៉ាង
As I said,
អាហ្នឹងវាគេហៅថាធ្វើឲ្យខូចហ្នឹង
it means to destroy.
ពួកដែលស្អប់ពួកដែលមានគំនុំ
Those who hate Anka
គំនុំនឹងបដិវត្តន៍
or those who would like to take vengeance against Anka wanted to destroy Anka.
មួយដែលធ្វើឲ្យយ៉ាក់ណាវាបាក់ស្បាតណាតើ
It was about the regime that traumatized people.
គេថាគេនេះ
And what would people do in order to react to that regime?
ខ្មែរក្រហមនេះដល់រំដោះទៅវាក្រោយខ្មែរក្រហម
They always wanted to liberate the regime before the Khmer Rouge did, but it turned out that the Khmer Rouge was able to do that before they could. So they would feel something about that, but I wish not to elaborate on that. Council, who are they you talking about? Can you indicate, can you explain what do you mean by they? Council, I cannot. Rather, a response, I cannot. Council, I would like to move on with another question.
តើលោកសាកសីដឹងអំពីនយោបាយរបស់បកកុម្មុយនីសកម្ពុជាក្នុងការជន្លៀស
Could you explain the policy of the Communist Party of Cambodia regarding the evacuation of people out of the city? What was the reason
នយោបាយ
for that?
ការគិតគូរទុកជាមុនដោយស្រេចហើយទេការ
Was it a
មុននឹងជម្លៀស
planned policy
ប្រជាជនចេញពីទីក្រុង
before the evacuation began?
នៅជិតដិតជាមួយនឹងមេដឹកនាំ
You were close to the most senior leader, that was Pol Pot. Response. My apology. I answered this question once already. It would be confusing if I answered it again. President, witness must answer to Council's question because Council is seeking clarification, which is an important point for him. Response. The reasons to evacuate people out of Phnom Penh as I heard from soldiers was concerning the American imperialist spies. There were many of them. Mainly they were women, and if we were not aware of this issue, we would be trapped by these spies. Secondly, I heard that the America has the defeat plan. I was not aware of what it meant by the defeat plan. I only came to know later that the plan was to bombard Phnom Penh. So the policy at that time was to evacuate the people out of Phnom Penh. That's what I knew.
សូមអរគុណ
Council, thank you.
ចុះចំពោះជនជាតិពួកតិចដូចជា
About the minorities,
ចិន
including
វៀតណាម
Cham, Chinese, etc. What was the policy of the Communist Party of Cambodia towards these people when the party ruled the country? Can you know about that? Can you tell the court about that?
Response. I know in general through documents that I got through study sessions, these minority groups, regardless of any minority groups they belong to, they had to be to unite to fight the American imperialists. This is the part of the policy everyone was taught. And during my time, when I was in the Khmer Rouge regime, the Cham people were not mistreated. Counsel, thank you. Mr. Witness, you testified before the chamber by using the term speculate. On several occasions, you said you were not certain when providing testimonies, as what you did also on the 26th of April 2012. My question to you is, did you only know your own business, only things that confined to the level you are working at, and that you were not knowledgeable of anything above that or below that? Is that correct? Response: yes, it is. Counsel: thank you. What about the other institutions, other ministries, at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? Those who hold, or rather held, particular positions, were they knowledgeable of other matters other than their own business? Response: I don't know what happened to them. I don't know whether they were authorized to do any other things or anything. But when it comes to Mr. Ingsari, he only educated me, told me to mind my own business, and that I should not care for other people's business. That's what I was taught and told. Question: after you had been in the struggle movement in the Communist Party of Cambodia, had you ever seen or remember having seen any other military or soldiers joining CPK forces? Response: I have never seen, I have never witnessed such thing. However, I noted that the upper echelon through Pong informed people to be prepared to assist Nuon to work with other parties. Question: are you referring to other parties here, to foreigners or internal parties? Response: my apologies. Indeed, I was referring to the foreigners when I was saying other parties. Question: from 1970 through 1975, how could you describe the situation when King Norodom Sihanouk was King Norodom Sihanouk government was toppled down? Could you please recollect or describe to us the event of the coup d'etat back then? Response: I may describe to you based on the best collection I can. Counsel, please be briefer because we are running out of time. Witness: first, the country was not in peace. From 1970 to 1975, I remember very little about Mayake's ship, the Koh Tang Island, the fighting with Vietnamese troops, our troops at the border, the Ho Chi Minh Trail, and relationship between Cambodia and Vietnam. These are the things that are not that people did not have some agreement on. Question: from 1975 to 1979, was the situation different from that during 1970 to 1975? Response: I think you asked me about 1970 to 1975, and now you proceed to 1975 to 1979. I think my response to you was mixed up. I was covering 1975 to 1979 already. Please excuse me. I would like to repeat my statement. From 1970 to 1975, we were in a very difficult situation. We were barehanded or empty-handed. In 1975, we won the victory, starting from scratch. We worked with our blood and sweat, and we had to use horses to carry our letters and correspondences. We had to cycle to for the purpose of sending messages. If we could, those who could afford, then they could have motorbikes, but that's very rare. So the victory was seen because we were focusing on the policy to attack the giant, attacking the giant policy, and we won the battle over this. Council, thank you. I would like to have another question. From 1970 to 1975, you said the CPK attacked the enemies with bare hands, and that you said you used horses to help carry letters for you. Were there any foreigners assisting or giving any lending hands to the forces, including the Krung government people? Response: I don't understand the term the Krung very well, but I think you are referring to the government headed by former Prince Norodom Sihanouk. Council, yes, it is correct. Witness: we were assisted, but emotionally, not technically. Question: were you assisted? Were the troops assisted by Vietnamese troops to fight the Lon Nol regime and soldiers? Response: I did not see this with my own eyes, but I have heard of this. I have heard from soldiers that there were Vietnamese troops in Cambodia back then. I heard from Pong, however, that Vietnamese were not allowed to come with us to join hand because they separated the battlefields where Vietnamese could belong, then they could belong to that confined location, and the Khmer Rouge troop would conquer a particular battlefield for the fighting. Question: back then, the Vietnamese and Heng Samrin's troops attacked Phnom Penh, and some of the Khmer Rouge troops fled to the Thai-Cambodia border. Were you on the run with Pol Pot to that area? Response. I worked at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I was tasked with keeping the intellectuals, the children who were prepared to attend study sessions. There were about 1,000 people in total, and I was asked to ensure that they are put out of harm's way. And they said that the people needed to be moved elsewhere for a week only, but they never returned. We had to go all the way, never coming back. Question. When you say that this group of people were led to the west direction, whether it is a short evacuation or not, did you ever meet your uncle, Pol Pot? Response. When we reached the location, about 1 year after that ordeal, I met with him. Question. When you met Pol Pot at the border area, had you worked closely again with him? Response. I stayed separately from the location where Pol Pot stayed. I stayed at the area called 102. Question. When Pol Pot got sick, and he had been sick for some time before he passed away, had you been informed of this situation, and had you been informed of his death? Response. Before he died, he said the situation at the higher land was not very good. And he asked people who at the lower ground, I was not with him, but he gathered everyone and advised everyone that we had a situation. And he asked me to stay away and only coming to him when he called. So he asked me or us to just hide ourselves or do whatever we wanted to do, but not to be close to him. Question, from then on, did you ever meet him? The President, witness, could you please now be advised again to wait until you see the red light on the mic before you proceed to speak? Response. I had never met him again, but I did have some visits to his grave. Question. You are therefore not knowledgeable or were not knowledgeable prior to the date before he indeed died. Response. No, I wasn't. I was far from him. I stayed at a location which is near the road that links to Evidentiary province. Council, thank you. I will stop asking you questions concerning this, and I will move on to another topic. In document D233/2, you said you learned that Uncle Pol Pot was in charge of politics when Bong Nuon Chea was responsible for organization and organizational matters. That's what you stated back then. My question is, do you still stand by this statement? And do you know, rather, how do you know this? Response: I learned about this through Pang. Question: if Nuon Chea was responsible for organizational matters, what do these terms exactly mean? What was the function of organizational? Response: I don't think I understand their exact roles, whether it is politics or organizational roles, but I just learned from Pong that Pol Pot was tasked with managing the politics when Nuon Chea was responsible for rather appointment. Council, thank you, Mr. President, Your Honors. I have no further questions, but my colleague would like to have the floor to put further questions to witness. The President, Council, you may now proceed.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. Witness. I'm also counsel for Nuon Chea, and I have some questions for you. First of all, I would like to ask you again about case 000. One of my colleagues on this side, Michael Carnavas, counsel for Ieng Sary, asked you who the accused should be in case 000. And I do not remember you answering that question. Would you be able to answer that question now?
Response: I don't remember the exact date I said that, but I already stated that according to my meditation, the Iron Fist Jenny said that our words are very important. We have to be very careful when speaking. Case file 000 should also be considered. Why should we forget all about case 000? And I did say so. And I think that, and I put this question to myself, before 001 exists, what could have been the digits that comes before this number? And I said, before 001, there must always be 00. Without which you cannot have 001. This means 00 could have been the mastermind of the other problems. So we can see that who actually created the 00 and before we have the number 1. So who initiated such thing? We need to find out for sure. And I also would like to emphasize further that Khmer Rouge, like me myself, never want to hide in the jungle. We would never want to endure difficulty. We did not want to go into war, and we hated. They who staged the war for the Khmer Rouge to handle. And Khmer Rouge is not the term I really give. Somebody has given it. As a person who fought for my nation, I was a soldier. So I can see that this is my interpretation concerning K000.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Mean Vietnam or America? Can you be a bit more specific?
Response. With that response, I have an answer. According to the the penal code, I do not really implicate Vietnamese and Americans in this phenomenon. I really state that I really refer to the penal code. According to me, penal code states that anyone who does something contradictory to the penal code, then you shall be punished. Penal code, as understood in Khmer, Prum. Prum is the person who creates people. People born from land, from wind, and from fire. So those who created this wind, land, and fire was the mastermind of this thing. Thank you. I would never implicate Americans or the Vietnamese in this. The President, Council, could you please be advised to frame your questions that are relevant to the facts at issue? Your question and the response from witness are not considered relevant to the alleged facts before us.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to show a document, and a copy has already been given to the court officer. It's document D56/doc, document 010. It's a communique, a press release, an official press release issued after a visit of Norodom Sihanouk to Vietnam in 1972. I'm asking for permission to show this document on the screen.
The President, court officer is now instructed to put up the document on the screen as requested by counsel for Nuon Chea. The President, the counsel, could you repeat the document number, because court officer has missed the identification of the document you wished to be put up on the screen.
It's D56-doc, or document 010. And I believe we gave the court officer a hard copy of the document, and we can put it on the screen if we have permission to do so. I will give the witness a few seconds to have a look at the document. Mr. Witness, my question is whether you have heard of this visit, which took place in 1972, October 1972. It was Norodom Sihanouk, head of state and chairman of the National United Front, to Vietnam. And he was accompanied by, as far as I understand, almost the entire government at the time. my question is, are you familiar with this visit?
បាទខ្ញុំបាទអត់ដឹងទាល់
Response: No, I don't know anything about this.
Thank you. Then I won't ask you any questions about the document, but one of the people that accompanied Norodom Sihanouk to Vietnam was Kate Chun. You've mentioned him several times in the past days. Do you know what his position was in the National United Front of Cambodia?
Response: I don't know his role. I only knew him in my capacity working at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He worked at the intellectuals section when I worked at the peasant section.
According to a document I just showed you, at the time, which is 1972, he was Minister Delegate to the Prime Minister's office. Do I understand you correctly that you're unable to confirm this?
Bad.
Response: Yes, you do. The President Council, you should emphasize on the identification of the document because witness has not been familiar with the document, and you would be quick to be on your feet to really object if the witness has not seen this document before putting question. For example, witness should be asked whether he knows this document or not. Otherwise, we should have it withdrawn. And if the document is, the document should be put up on the screen before questions or relevant questions are put. And that's what the chamber wishes you to do, because we seem to have agreed already with this practice, and that there have been objections and also agreement on how we proceed with the display of documents in the courtroom.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've finished. I have no questions about this document anymore, so it can be taken away. I don't mind if the witness want to have a further look at it. But, I would like to go on to the next question, which I will do now. Mr. Witness, last week you confirmed, following an answer of the prosecution, that Kate Chun had been implicated by dozens of documents. Do you remember confirming that?
Response: No, I don't, because I don't remember indicating that there could have been any documents concerning this implication. I did say that people implicated him in some confessions, and Ieng Sari said if Kit Chun had to be removed, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs would be ground to a halt. And I did not see that, but I heard from what I was told.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. That's exactly the portion or the part of your statement I was referring to. My follow-up question would be, why would the Ministry of Foreign Affairs come to a halt or grind to a halt if Kate Chun were to be removed?
ខ្ញុំមិនដឹងហេតុផលរបស់បងយើងសេរីយ៉ាងម៉េច
I did not know the reasons of Mr. Ieng Sari. I did not know about that.
You cannot explain why he was so important that Ieng Sari intervened with Pol Pot on his behalf.
បាទ
No, I can't.
On the 31st of December 1977, there was an official statement of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in which the cut-off in diplomatic relations with Vietnam was announced. Do you remember that official statement?
បាទខ្ញុំចាំ
I recall that.
Do you remember who wrote it?
បាទខ្ញុំអត់ដឹងដែរ
I do not know who wrote it.
You were questioned about this by the investigating judges. Or the investigators working for the investigating judges. And the first person you mentioned that could have written that document was Kate Chun. You remember? It was on 22nd of July 2009.
បាទខ្ញុំចាំថាលោកគៀតឈុនគាត់
I remember that
សរសេរ
Mr. Kiet Chun
សន្ទរកថាអី
wrote speeches,
តែពីរឿងប្រកាស
but
ផ្ដាច់ទូតពីវៀតណាមនេះ
about the announcement to cut relations with Vietnam, I do not know about that as to who wrote it.
Mr. President, I would like to show one more document before the break, and I will ask all the appropriate questions. It is document number D366/7.1.473, and I'm asking for permission to put that document on the screen. And for the court.
President, the court permits. The court officer is instructed to take the document from the Defense Counsel and show that to witness.
Okay.
Mr. President, can counsel indicate whether the document is already placed in the case file or it is a new document?
No, it's on the case file. The number is an official case file number. And I believe it's on the screen where one can see the number. It is, while the witness has a look at the document, it is a handwritten, or they are handwritten notes of a visit of Sihanouk, Norodom Sihanouk, to Kurt Waldheim, I believe in New York, on the 6th of October 1975. I would like to ask the witness whether he has seen this document before, or whether it is completely new to him.
This is a completely new document to me. President, court officer is instructed to take the document from the witness and remove it from the screen. President. The Council, this document D366/7.1.473, is that document placed before the Chamber?
No, not that I'm aware of.
The President, you're not allowed to put questions on the basis of the document which has not been requested to be put before the Chamber. If you intend to use documents which is a new one, you shall seek leave from the Chamber that the document be placed before the Chamber. Before your questions can be proceed.
The document was put on the interface well in advance. We take the position that we don't want to put this document before the Chamber. We want to use this document to impeach this particular witness. We were never asked to put documents we intend to use for impeachment purposes on any list, apart from the interface list. And that's what we have done. So I am confused.
The President, the Chamber would like to inform Defense Counsel that the document that you just showed has not been placed before the Chamber, and you should have requested to do so. Whether you intend to use this document now or at a later stage. Besides, has the document been translated into at least 2 working languages? Thirdly, I am doubtful as to what you have said. You said that you did not intend to put the document before the court, and you intend only to challenge or to impeach the witness. This is not a practice that we have been doing. The Chamber needs to be informed, and you needs to help the chambers to be informed of what happens during the concerned period. And now you indicated that you wish to impeach the witness based on this document. Now you are invited to examine this document again, whether you intend to put questions on the basis of this document, and if so, you shall request the chamber that the document be placed before the chamber. The chamber will not allow you use this kind of strategy that you try to impeach the witness based on the document that has not been placed before the court. Now the chamber has announced a 20-minute break. Court officer is instructed to accommodate the witness and his duty counsel and to return them to the court at 3 o'clock. The court is now adjourned.
Soom cheng krao chao.
All rise.